How's it going, everybody? And you are here for Tactical Reserves. I'm Brinks.
I'm Zach.
I'm Troy. I'm Anvil.
And we're here to talk to you about semi-competitive, I would say. Would you guys agree with that? Probably semi-competitive Warhammer.
Yeah, sure. More than narrative.
Yeah, we're definitely more competitive focused than narrative focused. And today is our first podcast, so bear with us. It's all about learning how to tweak it in a room with four dudes without sweating our asses off. So we're going to work on this, and tonight we are going to actually discuss some 9th edition. We're going to talk about our most recent hobby project, and I think we're going to talk at least briefly about Zach and Troy's last game, just because, once again, I want to hear about Zach rolling all sixes for damage.
Oh, it was brutal.
So anyway, Anvil, why don't you go down for the first topic of 9th edition that you want to talk about?
I think the biggest change to 9th edition is going to be the battlefield itself. The shrinking of the play space in the I guess not even just competitive, the overarching game going from 4x6 to 44x60, and the added terrain that they've adopted, the terrain guidelines put forth by more competitive places like the ITC and Nova, where they block line of sight. And today they announced that terrain's going to get keywords. They're going to be, all terrain can be different, and as far as how some we're going to grant saves to melee, which is going to be a big change. And I think it's really going to transform how the game interacts on the board.
Yeah, I would actually agree with that. And my biggest concern with the discussion on the keyworded terrain is how are they going to identify it? Because in my experience, a lot of 40k terrain looks pretty damn similar. So like, how are they going to identify I feel like that's just going to open up a lot of question marks in tournament play for not your normal guys that are there to have a good time, but your guys that are there to kind of rules lawyer situations.
Well, I feel like you'll decide all that before the game starts, and then your bigger tournaments will probably have a sheet, like all the boards will be laid out similarly. This terrain here in X spot is always going to be this terrain.
That
you
makes
don't
sense.
have that argument.
Yeah.
Everything's decided before the game starts.
Yeah, tournaments have the same, terrain on every table. I assume they're going to have, this is what this terrain is.
Right.
It's up to the tournament organizer to tell you what you're dealing with.
And they said that they're going to put out guidelines for Games Workshop terrain. So Games Workshop terrain, they're going to say, this is what this does, this
Okay.
is. But as far as your own terrain and how you want to treat it on the battlefield, everyone just agrees before the game starts.
Yeah. I mean, that makes sense. I'm just curious about like going to tournaments, because me having not really done a lot of tournament play, that's just like a whole nother step to remember is like, what I hope at least there's some sort of like laminated sheet or something at the table as a reminder of what terrain is what, because that seems like that would be an impactful change. Or, if you're in the wrong one terrain thinking it's this keyword because it looks like the GW terrain, but this tournament has it keyworded as this terrain, like it's just another place for players to make mistakes, which I mean, it's competitive, so that's fine. But I do think that is going to be impactful on games and could somewhat create some feel bad Z moments as far as stuff like that goes, because it's an easy place to make a stupid mistake.
I think as long as you should have a conversation with your opponent before the game starts. Go over every piece of terrain. If terrain's going to be this big of a deal, like 8th edition is not that big of a deal. Are we playing ITC, line of sight blocking? Is this line of sight block? Whatever. It's not that big of a deal. The new one, we're all going to have to learn it together, but definitely be focused on before the game starts. This is like your relics and your warlord traits and stuff. Make sure everybody knows what's going on.
Yeah, that's totally fair. And as far as the smaller table goes itself, that was going to be cool. We actually were at lunch today all talking about the improvement on the middle ranged weapons and the takeaway or the reduction in power of the 72-inch plus ranged weapons on the table, because I know there are a lot of situations where Zach is Astro Militarian player, so he's been fielding tanks since we started playing, and battle cannons definitely felt like one of those things that was just basically untouchable for us. It's changed as we've gotten better at the game, but it's kind of one of those experiences. Now we can use 36-inch range weapons and maybe be able to get into those battle cannons first turn even. So that's a pretty big change. Not to mention just getting across the battlefield. I can't imagine how much NIDs are gonna like the much smaller distance in between.
Yeah, I think that like we've seen a lot of stuff for the tanks firing in combat and being able to fall back and shoot and stuff, but I think this reduction of the map or the play area is going to help, and the new terrain is going to help melee armies a ton. So it might be more the melee armies are getting a real big boost, and these rules that they're spouting right now are actually just to keep gun lines going.
Well, and if you look at the obscuring rule they put out, it says, it talks about that if terrain is 5 inches tall, then models can't see over it through it unless you can draw a straight line between the two models. Now, models that are on or within this terrain feature can be seen and targeted normally. So if both your models are inside, they can see each other. Aircraft models and models with a wounds characteristic of 18 or more are visible and can be targeted even if this terrain feature is between it and the firing model. Note that the reverse is not true. So you can see a tank from the inside and shoot it, but it can't shoot you.
A big tank.
A big,
right.
Well, I mean, there's not a bunch of small tanks.
Can't hide Mortarian anymore.
Yeah.
Well, you can hide aircraft and big tanks. So the bigger models, like
Bang blades.
shoe boxes,
Yeah, shoebox.
won't be.
Knights.
Yeah, you won't be able to hide those. So you can put maybe the Marine Devastator squads with plasmas or rocket launchers or whatever in those, and maybe use that to your advantage tonight. That's maybe a change that can come about in 9th edition.
Yeah, no, that's valid.
We also don't know if they're going to change ranges on anything either. The smaller board, they're rewriting codexes. Maybe Battle Cannon doesn't do.
Well, but we know that come the start of 9th edition, your codex will be valid.
That's true.
Is what they said.
So they won't be able to at least change until your new codex comes out. So at least at the start of 9th edition, your current codex is valid. As
You gotta remember that this game isn't just about the 2,000 points, 44 by 60 inch game. Like they still play a lot bigger games, and a 72-inch range can be a big deal.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that.
So GW's gotta market it to everybody. They can't just be like 2,000 points is the only game that we're gonna worry about.
Though I do feel like they should just worry about 2,000 point games personally. Like, I mean, you can, because I feel like that is one of the cruxes of GW's situation is you can't balance this same game from 500 points to 4,000. Like it just shifts. The shifts are too like once you get 4,000, like the big stuff is so much more important than it is. Well, I mean, it's not impossible at 500, but you want to feel big shit at 4,000 points. Like you almost have to. Like you're not going to field 1,000 cultists at 4,000 points
and that's what
have a shot.
And that's what drew us into the game. That's kind of what we started. We saw the big models, sweet models, and we're like, I want to be part of that. I don't really want to be a part of.
Yeah, when they released Kill Team, all of us were just like, that's not our lane. Like I got into 40K to play tanks. Like I thought that was cool. So I'm not playing anything lower than 1,000 points because then you don't get to play
Tanks.
lots of tanks.
That's fair. Lots of tanks.
Lots of tanks.
I like playing lots of dudes, or I did, but now I'm a filthy Necrons player. So because they killed cultists, all right, I miss them.
To be fair, they had it coming.
They did for the first 2 nerfs.
I think
it's just not a unit to the army that it's not a Chaos Space Marine. Like that's not what they are. They're just guardsmen stuck in that list. I think GW doesn't want them to be popular.
The fact that you could shoot him twice and give him +1 to wound was too good.
Yeah, I agree. It was too good.
That was the issue.
Also, deploy them.
Yeah, Alpha Legion.
That was the big one.
Alpha Legion cultists were too good.
Yeah.
It's
like when you can deploy just like basically a big wad of guardsmen and blow a knight off the table. It's a problem.
Yeah.
It's like I can understand if you deployed them and you blew up like a Space Marine, like a couple of like squads of Space Marines, and you're like, okay, well you shot your wad on the first turn and blew all these stratagems and you killed some Space Marines, like cool trick. But when you're just like, hey, you see that 600 point model over there? Gone. And you're like,
It should give them their own army. Just the
renegade.
Card.
The renegade
should
army.
be them. They should give them better rules,
Maybe they
playable rules. Because the Chaos Space Marines are Chaos Space Marines. There's no reason for guardsmen or just regular hobos to be in that book.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
That doesn't make sense.
No, the Renegade, and I wish they would put some focus back into the Renegade stuff.
But we knew
They have some cool stuff, but they also have some really bad rules.
But we knew going in, we were drawn to the bigger game. We were drawn to the bigger models. Like I saw Knight. As soon as I saw Knight, I was like, "Oh yeah, that's it."
Mortarion was my muse.
Well, Mortarion is sweet.
No, he's not. He's the opposite of sweet.
He was pretty sweet. All right, so we're gonna get back on topic though. So Troy, what about Ninth Edition? Either do you think is going to be the most impactful, or are you most excited about outside of the table and terrain changes?
Outside the table, I am actually just excited that GW is going to have their own app for army building. I don't know too much about it yet, and supposedly it's going to drop when pre-releases drop, or pre-orders drop. Sorry, but that's going to be huge if they are monitoring that, and it's going to change when their stuff changes.
That could be a game changer.
Yeah.
It really could.
Well, and having all your
And if I have all my stratagems and all that, and I don't need
your rules,
5 books when I go to play a game,
your rules
That are
windows.
outdated because of 17 freaking FAQs.
yes, if all that's there and they've got it all, I mean, I don't even mind paying a few bucks for it.
Oh no, I would pay a subscription for a GW app.
Subscriptions are traps.
I would still pay for. I mean, so are hardcover books that are outdated.
That's true. Yeah, it is a very old business model.
But
It is fun to look through the book.
yeah, it is. That's what I'm saying. It is kind of cool to have.
You don't have to get rid of the
able to.
Yeah,
Well, that's what, no, I'm saying is if you'll be able to keep them on your shelf, and then two editions from now, look back and be like, oh man, remember this? And pull it out and like look at it and look at the pictures and like, oh, remember when these models were good?
2 editions
mean,
or
like
763 FAQs ago.
Half the books are lore anyway. So,
But yeah, I can see that being really cool. Like everybody uses Battlescribe right now, so GW definitely has some ground to make up for it.
That and there's been the issue of tournaments where points haven't been updated correctly in non-GW apps, so people are having illegal lists because Battlescribe, who is should not be responsible for it. Because I'll tell you right now, if I went to a tournament, I would print my list off Battlescribe right now. And if there was something that was 1 or 2 points off, like I'm taking my list to the point every time. Obviously, I mean that's the goal. Right. So if there's if you're playing 2 HQs and they have a guns with a point change, like that's massive, and that has happened. So that is, I didn't even think about that being such a big deal. That is a super huge deal, dude.
Well, and I think the biggest issue is if you're going to get your digital codex when you buy your paper codex. I mean, you could always bought a digital one before, but it didn't update or anything.
Yeah,
so if they update it and they keep your rules up to date, then it's a game changer. You being able to be like, someone be like, hey, what's the rules on that model? And you can just be able to be like, click.
Yeah, that is.
But it's
gonna be so
here's
good.
the whole data sheet, little at the bottom asterisk. Here's some FAQs related to this model or anything like that. That would be perfect. That'd be what we need.
Instead of being like, well, here's the book I got. Well, the book says that. Oh well, hold on. Let me scroll to the FAQ where it got changed. Well, this rule got changed to this, and this. It's like.
Well, especially after the Space Marines or Space Wolves fiasco, like.
And to write a whole page on the.
Yeah, I mean a whole page. That's a extreme example, but still, like if I was a Space Wolves owner, I would be salty as hell. So yeah, that's actually pretty impactful. I didn't even think about that. I do remember them saying that the app was going to be updated and stuff. I didn't know it was going to have like a list builder and all that sort of stuff.
Well, since they
haven't actually spoiled what it's going to do for sure. It's supposed to be an army building.
They had an army builder for Sigmar, right?
They have an army builder thing for Warhammer, but it's only based on point or power level right now.
And they said that's not going away, and they just need to give up. They just need to give up on it.
Power level is bad.
Yeah, that's a whole other conversation.
Yeah, that's just Games Workshop being like, no, power level's staying, and everyone's like, we're not using your power level, man.
Not everybody. A lot of people like your lore and narrative.
The thing is, you can't be like us, where you're semi-competitive or competitive. You can't play power level. Power level is definitely a gentleman's agreement, not to
be a dick.
Not to be a dick on war gear.
Yeah,
like that's how you have to play that.
Like, hey, man,
it works then.
Hey man, you want to play a casual game? Aaron blows your armor off the table in the first turn.
Yeah, but it does that whether you follow the rules or not.
That's true.
You just gotta play a whole bunch of mech guns versus an all Flyers army. It feels good, man. So, by the way, let's real quickly before we go on, since we've been through a couple of topics. I will say, as far as my armies go, I have pretty good knowledge on Chaos and Chaos Demons, obviously, and Orcs. I was pretty heavy into Orcs until I realized how much painting was going to be involved. And honestly, I'm not good at melee. I just haven't taken the time to learn it, and it was frustratingly difficult to handle that when I'm playing against, especially Zach, with shooting, and he has refined. He's been playing mostly the same army for quite a while, and he's extremely efficient with guards, so it made it really hard to try to touch the shooty boys. And now I'm on Necrons, mostly because that was actually, now that I've played for a while, that was the army that visually and painting wise, which is what I love, was the army that appealed to me the most. Once I had actually started sitting down and painting models and stuff, like Necrons, I love glow effects from the lighting and stuff like that, so that's definitely my jam. Anvil?
My first army was Adeptus Mechanicus. Like I said, we started. Troy roped us into the game.
What?
Yes. We were all Magic players, and our gaming store was pretty much just a Magic the Gathering store for a long while. But they started getting board games, and then they got some Warhammer stuff. And Troy kept being like, "Oh, we should try it. We should try it." I was like, "Meh." So then Troy broke down and bought a box set. The Dark Imperium box set. So we sat down and Troy glued some models together one night, and then we sat down and we played a little primer game, and that was it. So we went over and they had a knight on the shelf, and I was like, that's definitely where I'm going to be. But I knew that that's not where we were going to start out. You know, a knight is not like your first model. So I started with Adeptus Mechanicus, and that has been off and on my main army. It started as my main army. I kind of wandered into the list of guard and a Castellan.
Yeah.
The sweatiest list.
Yeah,
he played the sweatiest
Oh,
list.
he did.
Yeah, the Brigade of Guard and Castellan list.
And the bikes.
Fun times.
I had bikes. Sometimes I had Slame Captains.
Yeah.
But you got into Death Watch too. Like,
Yeah,
you're
I
not
have Death
always
Watch.
the sweatiest.
I forgot
No, honestly, you just kind of dipped your toe in the sweat for a while, and then, like...
I loved the Knights, and I love the Castellan, so what's the best list with a Castellan?
I don't know how anybody has ever loved a Castellan.
Have you played a Castellan?
Played against
He-
them.
No one played against
He's
it.
played the shoe boxes that Castellans delete.
Yeah, it's like,
They don't even have tracks, bro.
they don't need tracks, they have legs.
You could kit bash them to half tracks. That'd be pretty cool.
Oh my god. Have
But-
you guys... Oh, go ahead.
But you know, so I've played basically Imperium, AdMech, Knights. You know, I have 5 Knights plus 2 Armigers. So I got some Knights. I have and then I have a guard list. I have some tank commanders, hellhounds, you know, a buttload of guardsmen, Dragon, Fly Marbo. So that's, I got dipped into that, and then I have Death Watch, a few Custodes, and a few Blood Angels captains and whatnot. Mephiston, because he's sweet.
That's true.
So that's my general. I stick to Imperium.
Filthy Imperium scum, basically.
We're on the right side, sir.
How about you, Troy?
I started with Death Guard. I got the Dark Imperium box. I really liked the feel of them. The color, I like green's my favorite color, so I just went deep into that. Like the spiky bits, and then the best thing to go with Death Guard, you know, your Nurgle, is your Plague Berries. I moved on to Plague Berries, and mostly I've just picked up a ton of demons. I've not just stayed Nurgle. I have Bloodletters, Horrors. I like the really big demons, so I have Lord of Change and Great Unclean One. I'm working on a couple others right now.
Magnus Mortarion.
I have the Magnus Mortarion.
Yeah.
Bullshit combo.
I actually borrowed Aaron's Magnus, Brinks' Magnus, for a long time, and that really got me into, because they had the big power of the regular demons from, you know, the Demons Codex, but they're actually good, and they actually hit really hard.
They're actually good.
Actually good. Like, Magnus is actually good. Actually brings a lot to the table, He can make himself super survivable, really hammer.
Slash prices.
Yeah, he can go in and take out a knight on the first turn
Oh yeah,
if they don't screen it very well.
yeah.
Which
Even
would
if
have
they
been,
do, because you just smite everything in front of it and then slash his prices.
so then, right around the time everyone started playing Magnus Mortarion in the tournament scene, I picked up a Mortarion and did that, go along with my Death Guard. I was like, I already got Death Guard, but mostly focused on demons now. I still play Mortarion every once in a while. We hadn't played in a long time, so I brought him back out because I hadn't played in a long time. And Zach destroys everything else I play.
Mortarion is such a house too.
Yeah.
That's such a fun model to play.
I also have a Dark Eldar army because they were actually. I wanted to play Warhammer since I was a kid. I saw it in a comic book store when I was a kid. And I always wanted to play it. That was why when the shop started carrying it, I was like, I want to play this a lot, and it'd be awesome if you guys played it. I went back and I picked up Dark Eldar, traded in a bunch of my Magic cards as that game. And but they're on the back burner. Still painting them. They pretty much gray right now.
Dark Eldar actually look sweet though.
Yeah,
Freaking Space Pirate Elves.
Yeah, Space Pirate Elves. The models are great. The lore's pretty crazy. I'm not sure. Like I tried to read it a little bit, and those are not guys I would want to meet. But their models are awesome.
They are.
And
They are
You have
awesome.
some Space Clans too.
I do have some Harley Quinns to go along with them because Anvil said I wouldn't do it,
I said you wouldn't paint it.
which is true. I haven't yet. But
There's still time. Fun fact: I was living like 2 hours away, and they were talking. They're like, "Dude, you gotta check out this game called Warhammer." So I drove down for one day, watched them play Warhammer. Next time I visited, I was like, "I got 2,000 points. I'm ready." Like,
he went deep.
I was hooked. Oh, it was so cool.
Well, we all kind of went.
Everybody did. I was just
Yeah,
late to the
we didn't
party.
have like an escalation. Like we started out low and then it went deep.
We
pretty
all kind of
quick.
started with the start collecting box, kind of like
Yeah.
Story started with a dark bit, but everybody bought like a couple dark or start collectings. You got like a start, and we're like, oh, we got like 600 points, and then a month later, Zach had 4,000 points because he had like, Bane blades. he had conscripts that could fill the table.
It's an addicting game. It's fun to buy into. I will agree. I've had more fun on the table with Warhammer than I did all of Magic, which we were hyper competitive in Magic. So I feel like while we had really good experiences with Magic, there was never a time, even when we played Commander, where we sat down during my time playing with you guys, because I missed like a 5-year stint where
I've
you
had
guys.
some pretty fun times with Magic.
I feel like I was always.
We're going to be on Magic all night.
But I think the biggest part of that was us going traveling. We had fun traveling. It wasn't necessarily the game.
Yeah, exactly.
It was us going together to play game. So if we could, if the country doesn't burn to the ground and COVID kill everyone, then and we start getting to go to tournaments again, and maybe we start to go to some Indianapolis for tournaments, or I know Zach won't be able to go because.
I'm surprised he's this far north.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
also he's a expecting father, so he's got that.
Yeah.
But if we can get to some competitive tournaments and
I
maybe
just don't know how you transport all the models. I have a lot of models.
you have
You have the
4 bags.
Yeah, you have
You
like
only have
the
to bring
biggest
what you're going
case.
to play. You don't bring your whole army.
When you play guard, you
Well-
bring everything.
Yeah, because his models only cost like 1 point a piece.
That's
so,
true.
Like,
But as far as a lot of the fun times that we had in previous games were traveling and going to tournaments together, and it wasn't necessarily the game itself. It was just us going and traveling. So we've been able to have that kind of interaction with Warhammer and without having to travel to the
yeah, like I'm there definitely to have fun first with Warhammer compared to like when we were testing Magic. Like I was there to win. Period.
Yeah.
Like every game, even Commander. Like we were doing Tier 2, Turn 3 wins consistently. Like it was just not the same thing. But anyway,
We had to tone down our commander group for a while there.
yeah, we had to house ban like 20 cards. I mean, it was stupid. So, last but not least, Zach, let's hear about your armies and your ventures into this game.
He's been all over.
Yeah.
I've not gone that
He's
far.
been Imperium. Not been long. Well,
What?
that's not true. I take that back.
Whoa!
I mostly play Astra Militarum or Guard. Probably have 6,000 points of Guard now. I sold my 3rd Blade, and I picked up a Marauder recently. I'm pretty stoked about that. Lots of tanks, 10 or 12 Lehman Russes, 3 Hellhounds now, Basilisks, Wyverns, the whole nine. That's definitely what got me into the game, is buying tanks. I like fielding tanks. It's awesome. I've dabbled in Blood Angels, and I recently picked up Custodes. I'm going to start playing that mostly because they were getting a new book and I was bored. And I wanted to paint some gold. I'm tired of painting tan and brown.
I'm just glad that you're into painting. You were off board on painting after
painting 80 guardsmen will make anybody not want to paint anything.
Zach painted 80 guardsmen, he was just out on painting. He's like,
it took me 2 years after I got the guardsman paint to get back into it. But painting the vehicles is a lot more fun, but eventually you get tired of painting tan and brown. So I bought some golden boys. I'll do that. I've also got Tyranids. I started playing with Tyranids because I wanted something non-Imperium. Because you can only Vengeance for Cadia Troy so many times.
that's not true. I think you continue to do it.
You're not getting tired of it. Don't act like you're getting tired of it.
Tyranids is a whole nother animal. I'm not real happy with their codex right now. But I have an entirely painted Tyranid army too, so pretty happy with that. Just they're not very good.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Right now,
I think they're
not good. You cannot, under any circumstance, justify.
I think they could be a high scoring like ITC army. We won't know come 9th edition.
Yeah, ninth edition could be.
You have so many models,
boards and stuff. They could get a lot better.
Well, I just think you're not going to kill stuff. Like you have to have a different frame of mind. A lot of times when I find myself doing it, we get to playing the game and you're like, I got to kill these things, kill them, instead of being like, I'm going to spread out, I'm going to deny this area, and I'm going to hold these objectives, and I'm just going to pile up points. And I think Tyranids in the right hands with the right lists could be that. They could spread like there used to be slow, like at the start of ITC 8th edition, kind of there was the slow play orcs list where you just basically clogged the board with orcs and just collected so many points because they couldn't slog through all the bodies.
That's could be part of the issue. Is I've played guard where you just shoot the shit out of everything until everything's dead. Yeah. And Tyranids, you definitely have to play a little different, a lot more melee.
I think, but
I'm
I
not
think
as good at that stuff yet. So
I think there could be a path to a competitive list where they're not a frontal assault army.
Yeah, I mean,
they used to be. They used to be a first turn, drop hive tyrants and stuff in your business, and obliterate things. And I don't think they're that anymore. I think they're more run along the edges,
they're just
hold these.
Not though.
Yeah,
Marines are just so good.
Well,
yeah,
I think that's part of it. Is that like the codex is not good. We all agree it's not good. It is playable.
Yeah, if you put a professional, like a top tier player,
if you're like it's more about the person. Like you're gonna have to play your butt off to win with that list. You're gonna have
definitely
to
a lot more work.
Get as many points as you can. You're gonna have to do all this maneuvering, hiding, use your stratagems to the max because that list is not ready to take on Marines.
It's just not as efficient.
No,
use too many attacks, too many shots. You can take 200 gaunts and they'll be gone in 2 turns.
2 repulsors and it's over.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
So,
you also play Blood Angels.
I mentioned I play Blood Angels.
Yeah.
I sold most of my Blood Angels. I still have a battalion or so.
He bought Sisters, looked at the models, and sold
The
Sisters.
sculpts are so sweet, but I was just like, I'm not a good enough painter to paint these models. And it's another Horde Army style. I already have 2 Horde Armies.
One of the best looking models I ever saw was Zach's Celestine that he bought.
Oh my god, that thing was gorgeous.
And you got that thing for a song, if I remember right.
I don't remember. It's been a long time.
It was like under $100. I know that. With the
still have it.
with the dancers, and it was
maybe Celestine went back to being top form in new edition.
Well, that codex just came out, so
Maybe not
real bad in that codex.
Maybe not.
Yeah,
Take it back.
They really did a number on the Acts of Faith. Maybe they can return Acts.
Oh, the Acts of Faith are really good.
No, but it was what she used to be. Where she could.
What she used to do is not what she does now.
For the army, they're better, but for her, they're not as good.
Yeah, miracle dice and stuff like that whole codex is sweet.
Well, you did miracle.
I just didn't want to have to paint this super cool looking models. Like they're
what's the name of the big organ thing that you were like?
The Exorcist.
You were like, I could never leave. This could never leave my house if I painted it because it would just explode.
I think it was brutal on the table. I'll tell you that.
No, it wasn't the Exorcist. That was the
the big.
Yeah, the diorama.
Oh, the Saint Catherine thing.
Yeah, that thing.
Yeah.
Oh,
Zach
yeah,
was like, that thing is hella sweet, but I could never leave my house where they would just explode.
That's true.
All right, Zach. So, since we've done Troy and Anvil, what thing about Ninth Edition are you most excited about, or think will be most impactful?
Well, I play guard, obviously, and I play to learn because I like moving my vehicles without penalties to shoot because I like playing tanks and sentinels and stuff. And I think that's a huge part for guard, for to learn especially. But now everybody's getting that. I think that's going to be a game changer for everybody. Flyers get infinitely better, and if everybody gets to move their tanks around, like playing Catachin now and still getting the to learn benefit of moving without penalty is going to be a big deal.
Yeah, that's going to be crazy. And you get blast weapons, which are
like the blast weapon part. Like I don't know, but like the moving without penalty to shoot means you can run away from people. Like I don't know if we're going to see the big castles like we see right now because nobody can afford to take that -1 to hit. So you have to stand there in your corner and screen the shit out of it. That's how you win with guard. That's how you win with Tau. You do the same things. But now, all your heavy stuff can move around. So if a bunch of cultists get too close, you can just nope out of there. Because they have, like all the guard tanks have 10 to 12 inch movement. That's a lot of movement. So you might be able to just skirt people without having to sit in one spot and castle up. So I think that could change a lot of things.
and I mean that is definitely, I agree, that'll definitely change some things, and I think it'll make for a more fun gameplay because, like you said, you're not just castling up.
Exactly.
Like you as even I mean, I feel like if I were playing guard, like it would be frustrating to just not be able to move or feel paralyzed.
That's why I play to learn because I didn't like sitting in one spot. Like to learn. The tank commanders getting to move and shoot is like the coolest thing ever. Like you can jump out of cover, shoot what you want to shoot, and put your tank back, and never get because they don't get invulnerable saves or anything. You have to be super cagey like that. That's awesome.
I don't think the blast weapons, you mentioned the blast weapons of the tank, they're an improvement, but I still don't think it's the game changer that people thought blast weapons were going to be, just like decimating hordes. Like, yeah, it's good, but
the blast weapons, I think that rule needed a lot more work than what it got. Because like D6 weapons getting a minimum of 3 shots is like okay, but you still have to wound and do all that stuff.
Well, but the models that you're gonna be shooting at, you're definitely gonna wound. Well, I wouldn't say definitely. I've seen you roll wound rolls, but
you're statistically going to wound,
yeah.
And they're not going to be able to save.
You're still at a BS4 to hit, so it's like. I mean, if they wanted it to be like super ridiculous against hordes, like they're all multi-damage weapons, make the damage spill over, or give them max shots.
Well, you got to keep in mind though, the definition of a horde to get max shots is only 11 models.
That's true.
So like,
but that is a big.
But there's not a lot of units in. Like most armies only have a couple units that can even go over that many.
Yeah, but that's my point though. Like you're talking about. It's those models that are always like NIDs, cultists, conscripts.
But like the majority of things, like you don't want to be shooting blast weapons into those things anyway, unless you have to. Like I'd much rather take a Punisher and shoot 30 Termagants than a battle cannon. Yeah, like the battle cannon being slightly better is okay. It's nothing to be scared of.
I don't think it's game changing as far as from a shooting side, or it's not crippling from a horde side.
It's definitely game changing. I don't think it's crippling.
Yeah. I mean,
those weapons are better now when you're shooting at things you like. Say they hide all their tanks.
It is a across the board buff for those weapons. Yeah. However, you can't shoot them when they're in close range. So like maybe that's how you get the Vanquisher to be from garbage and guard. Because like right now, there's no reason to ever take a Vanquisher over a battle cannon. But the Vanquisher doesn't get blast. The battle cannon does now. Maybe
or the opposite.
No, you want the other one. So that way you can still vanquish your heavy target across the map.
He means if you get into combat, you'll still be able to shoot your Vanquisher.
Because
Well, I thought you could still shoot the.
You can't shoot blast weapons at the stuff that's in you.
Yeah, but you could still like target the Vanquisher over there or something.
I guess you're right.
And try to clear the tank.
Yeah, I guess.
You shoot.
But if you can't, like say there's like 10 dudes and you have 3 heavy bolters, then you could still shoot the Vanquisher as what Jackson said.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you'll always get
Well, shoot the
shots
battle
out.
cannon.
No, you can't shoot the battle cannon because there's a guy close.
Yeah, that's
But the Vanquisher you could shoot.
I don't think you can shoot either of them. Actually, I would think I'm wrong.
I thought it was just
You have to shoot him into, so you'd have to shoot your Vanquisher into the.
yeah. You would
Well,
be able
yeah,
to shoot.
you're not gonna be able to shoot it past. The only way to do that is your big voice.
So that doesn't really.
I think the heavy rule is a big deal though, because you might see some units.
That's
we
for
generally
vehicles
don't
specifically,
see-
though, right?
Well,
No,
actually, the heavy rule now only applies to infantry.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Well, I guess
Kind of that way, but
No,
yeah.
I said it backwards. That's what I meant. Infantry still.
Right now,
get a
there's some
-6.
vehicles that we just don't see, like the Space Marine flyers that aren't the
land speeders. You don't
Yeah,
see
land speeders.
at
What's
all.
the Space Marine flyer you were playing? The bus thing.
The Storm Raven? But that
Yeah, it has, but the other ones don't.
Right.
So and like they might be better. Valkyries, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, Valkyries definitely get better.
Definitely, like I don't know about Necrons, but some other armies, you just don't see them because they like the Death Watch flyer is cool looking,
Oh, the
but
Corvus Black Star.
it is on 4s because it doesn't have the power of the Machine Spirit.
Yeah.
So these things might be a lot better, and you might see them a lot more
I agree.
just
Yeah.
because of that rule being the way it is now.
I would agree. And there's a as far as shooting in melee goes, I want to just talk about Plague Burst Crawlers.
Oof. Boy.
Oh my god. Those things are actually going to be good again.
Yeah, those might be pretty brutal.
You gotta you need to go
Weren't you
buy
just saying
some.
those weren't good the other day?
No, I wasn't saying those weren't good.
They're not.
I'm saying if you
they're
play
not right
I said
now.
they're not bad either. I just
No.
said if you play them, you need to play 3, and I don't want to buy 3.
But I do think in 9th edition, being able to shoot their
The flamers,
Plague Spitters
yeah.
in melee is going to be insane.
That's another thing I'm really excited for. Kind of a bummer that I've glued all my Legion Russes together, but like right now, the standard loadout that I play on my tank commanders is battle cannon, last cannon, double plasma cannon.
We know.
Yeah.
That's pretty much
We're aware.
pretty much my go-to.
We've been domed with it many a time.
But now it's like there's actually an argument to carry heavy flamers as a whole weapon or responsive, which I think is great. Like I've wanted to do that. There's just never a reason to.
I mean, you put
now-
flamers in infantry units early when you were building them. You're like, dude, sweet, he's got a tank.
Then you
Like,
found
when-
out you deep strike 9 inches away and they had an 8-inch range.
Yeah. The biggest troll ever on flamers.
That is pretty big troll.
Like even when the demolishers first got good, I was putting flame responses on my demolishers for testing purposes because I knew they would be close, and it wasn't ever good enough. But getting to shoot in combat makes them maybe good enough. At least gives you an argument for it.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like heavy bolters a lot of times were just kind of used to clear some chaff and stuff anyway, because you're not usually shooting at super high toughness targets anyway. So at least the flamers, and that also combines with your movement thing. Now you can move around the board, flamer some shit, and shoot your big gun at something, and then if they touch you, you're just going to flamer them again. Like it makes it
Nobody
bad.
wants to get into combat with something that's got 3 flamers. That's not ideal.
Even a couple, like charging hellhounds is like the worst thing.
Oh
Just
yeah,
do it because
they
you
got
have
super
to.
flamers.
Yeah, still flamers. That
Yeah.
is not something you want to fight against.
Especially catachan ones where you have to re-roll them.
Oh.
And now
Oh.
now you can take catachan. You don't have to feel. Well, I don't have to feel bad. Not that the flamers were a problem there, but I never could take the flamers before. So.
Yeah, no, that's. I definitely think it'll be. It seems like all these rules are going to be super impactful for guard for sure. Just because a lot of the other armies already have good power level, but there are a lot of assault weapons and troop based stuff. Like a lot of this is leaning in toward making vehicles good, and guard vehicles were kind of right on the fringe of being pretty damn good anyway. Like they weren't bad, but they were on the fringe of
They
being
had some good vehicles, and then they have a lot of vehicles that are meh, and now they're
Well, like Troy mentioned the Corvus Black Star. That's
exactly.
That is a big
interesting.
one.
And land
That's a really
speeders
cool model.
for land speeders and attack bikes for Space Marines have been bad all edition. Like Sentinels have been bad all edition.
I just remember when we first started watching some battle reports of C games, and then watching them play all those bikers and run around shooting them, and then you start seeing like, why are these not being played? And it's like, oh, they're just objectively bad. They're just not good.
Yeah.
Like I like the land speeder models too. Like I think that's cool. It's just they've been trashed the entire edition. Now they won't be. So that's kind of neat.
Yeah.
Maybe you'll see them come back. 'Cause they're cheap.
Dreadnoughts too. They'll do.
Dreadnoughts is a big thing. Everybody loves a dreadnought.
Yeah.
I'm worried that dreadnoughts are going to get schmammied by the by the points increase. I feel like they're gonna overly focus on dreadnoughts because of Space Marines, and I feel like they may over adjust their points early on.
I think the regular, normal box Space Marines, the GW Space Marine dreadnoughts, I think they'll be fine for the most part. I think you need to worry about your Forge World ones, but in general, they're rewriting the Forge World rules anyway. I think all that's you need to be worried about if that's what you're leaning on.
Yeah,
I think they're going to change the whole thing up.
Storm cannons. Is that what those are?
Storm cannon race.
Yeah.
If you're playing those on your Leviathan, you know they're too good.
Yeah.
You're prepared for that nerf.
I'd be more like maybe they up the ballistic skill to 3, because those dreadnoughts hitting on 2s is just, and now they're going to hit on 2s. Even when they move.
Well, on a bigger board,
so much firepower.
On a bigger board, them only having a 24-inch range.
Yeah, yours only have a 24-inch.
Well,
the Chaos ones
don't care.
And they have an extra AP.
Yeah, the 24-inch range guns get a lot better on.
Well, yeah, because that made them at least you could try to just avoid those, but now the board shrinks, you can't avoid them. As well. So it's going to be.
What'd you think was the biggest thing? Have we talked about that?
I think it's command points.
Command points.
I think it's command points. I think personally, I think GW is putting way too many command points up front for all armies. I wish they would have chopped it down into, instead of one command point per turn, I wish it was 2, and people started with like 8.
We still haven't seen how much all the attachments are going to cost yet.
Well,
so that could be a big deal. Like,
it could.
If it's like 2 or 3 for Vanguard,
or maybe in 9th edition they're going to work towards a lot of smaller, less impactful stratagems.
Did you see that one they previewed today for the Assassins where it's a 0 CP?
What?
Stratagem. 0 CP. If you kill a character, 0 CP, you can play it, and then you can get 1 command point back. So you actually get a command point for playing a stratagem. Instead of costing you.
Well, they actually have that one now. It just costs 1, and you get 2 back.
Well, you get 2 if it's their Warlord, but now it's just a 0 and you get 1.
Yeah, but right now they have 1. It's
right.
1. So
I think that's.
But at 0, it's better because you're going to be, if you're out of command points, you can still always use it. And see, effects like that, and like giving a specific Warlord, starting you with more command points. I want to see stuff like that. I want to see maybe a Warlord trait that would let you generate an extra command point per turn. I don't want to see.
Well, they've said that that's going to stay. That things that still are going to allow you to generate command points are still going to be in the edition.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
But if instead of having stratagems like, I'm trying to think of a big, like the Castellan reroll in the house 3 CP Raven stratagem reroll all 1s.
Yeah.
Like instead of having a big stratagem like that that's really powerful and has a big effect, if they do a lot of the 1 CP, when they fall back, you roll d6s to do mortal wounds. If it's a bunch of little stratagems like that, where it affects the board, but it's more cumulative over the course of the game, more CP makes sense because you're just doing all these little things.
Yeah.
You're not slamming 3 CP down to obliterate half the table.
We're using 8th edition codex. It's at least a start.
Yeah, and it's GW. Like, I mean,
but I'm saying maybe in their eyes, they're like, if we start them with this many CP, and we're going to get here, there's going to be this.
But what Aaron's saying is, right now, that first turn's going to be ridiculous.
Yeah, but they can't come out at the beginning of the edition and be like, they got to set forth the base of the game, how they want to look at the end. So they can't be like, well, you only get 4 CP.
I mean, they FAQ that stuff all the time. They could be like, well, instead of 8, now you start with 12. But they could totally do that.
When they did it in 8th edition, but they ended up, having to...
Like, nobody's going to run away from the game because they don't have enough command points.
Yeah, here's the thing.
I like the idea, though, of every army having the same.
I love that. I love it not being detachment based. I think that's great. I think forcing people to take... Like there was an
obvious... are never going to get a brigade. They're never going to get 15 command.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's why I think starting with 12 is so insane. Like as a Necrons player, like starting with 8 feels batty. So starting with 12 is crazy. And I know people's counter argument is, well, I can spend 15 command points before the game starts. Yeah, but you shouldn't. You shouldn't get to do that. You're doing a
wanna
lot of
have command
powerful
points at
things.
the end of the game.
Well, you're just doing a lot of powerful things before the game's even started that most people don't have access to unless you're gaming a very specific set of codexes to achieve things that are absurdly powerful. Like if you're spending 15, you're starting with a huge advantage over your opponent. Whereas if you get 8 at the start of the game, then you have to pick which things are most effective for this specific game. You're not like, I just want all of the relics. I'm going to deep strike all these things. You're going to be like, I want to protect this unit. This relic is good for this specific game. This is how I want to play. And then progressively throughout the game, you get bonus command points. Like I would much rather see it be 2 per turn. That way, late game, because like you talk about these ones that cost 3 CP. Well, I mean, getting 1 command point a turn, all those are still turned off at the end of the game. Whereas if you could have 2 or 3, if you had some special rule by late game, you could still activate a bomb thing for like a crazy last turn to try and like equalize, the offset of the game. I feel like we're still starting with first turn matters to an absurd degree. Now, obviously, and it's a smaller board, so like the first turn, there's so much more things in range.
But we don't know if anybody's starting with 12 CP because you got to buy your detachments.
Yeah.
So you might might only be starting with 8 CP.
You might
or 7 CP.
But once
we
again,
know brigade's 3, so you're starting at 9 if you take 2.
Well, battalion.
2.
But you get 1 for free. I think you're going to see a lot less.
Well, yeah, you get 1 for free.
Multiple
You start with 12,
exactly.
you get 1 for free. You buy a second one, you're starting at 9.
Yeah, but I think you're going to see a lot.
Take a second
that's the thing. Why would you?
Yeah.
I think what we're seeing, if GW move towards here, is we've seen it in the last 2 Psychic Awakenings. The 10 cases, those are not relics. They're not warlord traits, but they're abilities you can spend command points on to give your model. And the demons have something too.
The custodians just got
the I think they're going to do that for every codex. You're going to get abilities that aren't relics, they aren't warlord traits, but you can modify your army with them. Like the greater demons,
really cool. Like
every greater demon you can pay a command point. You can get a couple abilities. Those are really cool, and they don't have to be your warlord.
Yeah.
Same with the 10 cases. You have to give up your warlord trait, right? But you still get.
You can get 1 for a CP, and then you can give up your warlord trait to get a second one.
So like these powerful abilities that don't break the game, but you can spread them out over your army, and they're going to cost CP. That's why you're going to have so many at the beginning, but you're going to get a 1 every turn for your like game changing stratagems.
Right?
Yeah.
And the way guard is right now, I spend 4 to 6 before the game starts, buying tank cases and relics and the vigilance
specialist attachments. Yeah. I'd like to see more of those. They're pretty specific on which army. Like not all armies got access to.
And usually, if you're willing to buy a specialist detachment, though, it's doing some powerful shit because it's expensive to purchase.
Mostly the guard one, you take the Emperor's Fist tank company just to get the relic battle cannon that you also have to pay a CP for. Is it worth 2 CP? Yes.
Yeah, most of them only have
that absolutely. Like that's I didn't want to use that because that's like an obvious example where this is like an extremely very good. Like this is something you 100% want if you're playing guard. Like. Because if you're throwing freaking, what are they? The Thunderhammers? You're shooting Thunderhammers across the board, like
with max shots against vehicles.
Yeah, it's just stuff like that. I just feel like I just wanted to see 9th edition move away from the first turn Alpha Strike, and I still feel like the first turn Alpha Strike is extremely possible.
I see where you're at right now, but we still don't know quite enough. Like. A lot of the super powerful things are when you start stacking codexes, and if they make buying another codex,
that's true. The soup is going to be
now if souping costs an additional CP on top of that,
we don't know the costs for this stuff.
Which
yet.
they've kind of hinted at.
You're just going to have to buy another attachment anyways. You're going to be,
if you have to buy a detachment and then you have to pay the soup as well, that's 2 CP you're already down.
Yeah, and that then all of a sudden 12 starts looking.
I think maybe. Vanguards and spearheads should be 2. Like right now, we know.
Well, see, here's what I think.
3.
Here's what I think.
Battalion is 3.
Yeah, I think vanguards and spearheads should be like 1, but I think supreme commands should be 3 because you are not doing fair shit if you're playing supreme commands. Period. You're not doing fair things. Like you're playing something absurdly powerful for a very specific reason.
It's
not really not fair things. It's just not the way the game's designed. Is to bring a bunch of characters.
Yeah,
that's Hero Hammer, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think like Supreme Command should not be in the same category as Vanguard, Patrol, and Outrider.
I'm not happy about it, but I agree with it.
Maybe Supreme Command shouldn't even be a thing.
It really probably shouldn't be because like I said,
If how do I get my Beyblade?
Heavy.
The super heavy.
Super heavy. Super
Yeah,
heavy
I don't get my
auxiliary.
doctor.
well,
I think that
Beyblades-
really shouldn't.
shoe boxes don't need
But,
doctors.
but Beyblades are going to be 700 points apiece, and it, you can only play super heavy.
It's not A7.
They're not going to be 700 points apiece.
What's one loaded out now? The way Zach loads them out.
My Shadow Sword is 540 points.
Yeah.
Okay, so like I said, I think the high end stuff is going to go up.
640 points because you're not playing a Trojan, you're playing Beyblade.
Oh my god. 540. I would say that's going to be a 650 point model.
Oh, I don't think it's going to get that much of an increase.
That's only okay. Well, no,
600?
maybe 600.
That's
600.
like a 10% increase.
Yeah, but that's like the bottom line. Nothing. If anything increases less than 10%, and you've got cultists getting a 50% point increase,
Back to the cultists.
I'm gonna be flipping all of GW's tables. Okay, all their freaking.
I tell you right now, not everything is getting a blanket 10% increase. That's not going to happen.
That should happen.
No,
you
it's
can't.
not going
You
to.
cannot increase
feel like-
something 50% and not everything else by at least 10. That's insane.
I feel like all the vehicles are going to go up dramatically, especially flyers.
But I think
Flyers-
there's going to be some things that don't increase, if at all, just for trying to get playability.
You might even see some decreases.
You know
I
what's
agree.
going to get a raise?
Are you trying to trigger me right now?
No, that's-
oh my
okay,
I'm
gosh.
just trying to be honest.
No, like look at like AdMech, right? The rust stalkers and the things that the little
Okay,
guy,
so
they-
bad shit won't, but everything
That's what I'm
being
saying.
played.
I was like,
But
I was
it's
like,
not. Nothing is getting decreased.
No,
okay,
things-
that is
things-
crazy.
No, I'm saying
talk.
for playability, there's going to be things in armies that they're going to decrease in points to try to.
Not at the start of ninth. There's no way they're
Not
decreasing.
day one. They're not going to come out day one.
Yeah.
I think Ogrins might get cheap.
You know what wouldn't surprise me is if they make cultists 6 points and guardsmen 3, because that's how GW likes that. You know, they are super on that.
There's going to be
dick.
models that they're going to decrease in points to try to get people to play them because
Yeah,
you have
like
to,
guardsmen don't see enough play.
I told you
Those should
before,
definitely
they
be
don't
3
want
points.
cultists to be a thing. They're just nerfing them out of the game.
Yeah.
I'm so tired of this cultist conversation. Every time.
I will never
Mad about
not
these
be
cultists.
salty about cultists, okay? Especially because all 3 of you argued with me that they did not over nerf cultists.
At first,
no,
On every nerf.
nerf properly.
On every nerf. You're like, no, this was
now they're where
needed.
they should be.
You were like, no, this was needed. When they went to 5 points, you're like, yeah, that was also needed. I was like, and then they lost all their abilities. You're like, yeah, that was probably needed. They felt a little overpowered. So I was like, what? You're like, and
I
then
don't
they
think
dropped
they
them
were
down.
overpowered. I
And then
think
they
it
dropped them
just
down to
didn't
30,
make
and you're like, yeah, that was that seemed unfair. Like every conversation, you're like, yeah, I could see why they
I
did
think
that.
if they would have just taken their stuff away, they could have left them at 4 points.
They didn't they move them back to 4 points?
They might. I don't know.
I think they're back to 4.
I don't pay attention to bad
Well,
models.
what are you complaining about?
I don't
That's a
own them
bluff.
now since they moved them to 4 points. I sold all
It's
that.
just, he's always gonna. Anytime cultist comes up in the FAQ or the codex, he's gonna make.
Oh, I am. I will.
I basically-
own.
I have a soapbox labeled cultists.
And
I will stand on it
At one
when I
point
can.
in time, Juice had a calculator that had to calculate how many cultists this model could kill, and that's how you judged whether you could play a model. That's how overly good they were.
Yeah,
They were
yeah.
very
That
good.
was like 17 nerfs ago, though.
They needed all of them. They probably need 18.
At least one
damn.
burst. At least one buff.
And at least one buff.
Like, it didn't make sense that they got Marine rules. They're not Marines. They're
Oh, no,
just
I
regular
agree,
hobos.
I agree.
They're not
That's-
even organized regular hobos. They just spiky dudes.
Look, if you are working for hell, you're organized.
No,
Okay, yeah, you're
it's
working for
chaos
the war.
is in the name.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's true.
it's organized chaos.
No,
like they're all running at the same thing. They're all their goal is murder. They are very committed to murder.
No.
I didn't hear they
Take
committed
the
that.
outlook.
They run away all the time.
Especially corn cultists. They are
Corn
super
cultists.
committed to murder. Slanesh cultists are committed to sexy murder. Like
Sexy murder.
Nurgle one's dirty murder.
My podcast bingo card did not have sexy murder on it.
Yeah, yeah. The Zinch one's sneaky murder. They all got different series of murder.
They need to be nerfed.
Anyway, that's a topic that you will hear every podcast. I am 100% sure that is going to come
Change
up.
the name to the Cultist podcast.
I'm out.
The cultist soapbox.
The cultist soapbox. Oh, that would have been so good. That would have been so
That
good.
would be a
That's-
one-person
you
podcast.
You can do that on the side.
None of the rest of us want any part of that.
Okay, I'm gonna have my own segment called the cultist soapbox every fucking podcast. I'll just wait till everybody else leaves and record it.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah, so it's like I don't want it.
I wasn't over here.
I've heard it so many times.
But as far as CPs go, I do genuinely wish they would have just at least attempted a low C. I don't want the game to care about stratagems as much as it does. Like, I want them to feel fun when you play them, but not build your army around the strongest stratagems. Because right now, I can tell you the formula for the successful beginning of 9th edition lists are going to be single detachment, whichever army has the most utilization of command points that can utilize the small board. That's going to be it. That's going to be the formula.
I'm not even willing to go there. I don't know if that's true.
I think the most
one, we haven't seen everything yet.
That's what I'm saying.
Like we still don't know how flyers are going to work at all.
That's true.
because they're going to be able to leave the board and then come back.
Suppose like there's been a lot of
building a
rumors.
Marauder and they're making the board size smaller. Not ideal.
I think what they should have done is stratagems, and I've heard this on other podcasts. This is my idea, but they should have made them one-time use. These are supposed to be
I agree.
Tricky
That would be
tactics.
fine too.
that surprise your opponent, come out of nowhere. They're not supposed to work again.
Well, I think than the reroll.
Well, the 3 blanket ones, sure.
So
Like,
so
they
my
don't have a
alternative.
lore. To
Yeah,
them.
the
My
one-
alternative to that was because Zach had told me about that at work, and my alternative was, well, it would just be harder to do another time, so make it cost an additional CP
I
on
can see
every
that
use.
too. Yeah,
Every edition.
that does require a lot of tracking though. Like
Yeah, and that was my argument as far as like as an entry level
simplified
player.
gameplay. I can understand
Because that's
that.
why when people talked about when they nerfed command points back when, because of the list, that you were only going to be able to, when your warlord generated CP, you could only use it for his faction, and that was the one thing people put out, just the tracking.
Yeah,
And
it
you'd
would
be
be
like-
so hard to do.
You'd be like, well, you only have 2 of this one that's left for your faction, and be like, well, I spent that one over, and then you
Like the game is pretty complicated already. You don't want to
We don't need a whole.
overcomplicate.
Yeah,
And
and
I hear that the missions are going to be a lot more bookkeeping than they are currently now anyway, so we probably don't need to be adding more.
Yeah, you're gonna be able to get up to like 15 points, at least on the GW,
Yeah.
the GW book missions.
yeah.
They're gonna be pretty interesting.
So, and they're progressive, which is more like in line with what Nova did, as far as you'll get more points every
I
turn.
think you should only be able to play one stratagem per phase. If you want that reroll, make sure it's what you're going to do.
But
I think that's
I
fine,
mean,
honestly,
that's
because you
kinda
can
fine, but for the
farm.
most part,
What
you're
if?
just not gonna use a strategy. You're
What
just gonna
if?
save it for the reroll.
What if?
Then you
Then you just got
Well, yeah, that's a choice you made.
What
That's
if?
a tactical
What
decision.
if just like they've gone with?
maybe you let reroll through. But
No,
any
I think it's
additional
just one
stratagem-
per.
No,
I
well,
think-
I was thinking. No, what if they went with like they're doing with the objectives in the games, and they have categories. So there's like
It
there.
just seems like a lot more.
Well, there'd be like tactical stratagems that affect the but then there's the overarching ones like command point reroll, etc. And you can use one of each.
I think we're gonna see
Well,
new,
because
new
like
stratagems that work in this new phase we're getting.
Yeah.
Like I don't know what.
yeah,
they're
it'd be
gonna
like command stratagems, and then there'll be like
because it feels like weird just to add a whole phase of the game just for your start of turn.
Yeah.
Well, Age of Sigmar
maybe
has it.
it's
Age of
like-
Sigmar has it. It's
Yeah.
like the upkeep phase.
Yeah, I
in
don't mind the
Magic.
phase. I'm just thinking there's gonna be something tied.
yeah.
to
There's
it.
going to be command.
Maybe instead of like at the beginning of the game when you buy like turn your character into the Black Rage or whatever.
Right.
Instead of doing it once per game at the beginning in the mustering phase, maybe
Mustering phase.
maybe
Mustard phase.
maybe the command phase is like you have to pay for it per turn or maybe not
I'll
per-
keep on. I like
on
that.
super powerful stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it doesn't really make lore sense that way.
yeah.
but
Well, I was just thinking
It
like
could.
like say you had
you don't
your
come
command
back from Black
stratagems,
Rage.
which
Not,
would
not
be
for Black
one,
Rage specifically.
which would be like Troy's talking new stratagems that can only be done in the command phase.
Yeah.
And then there'd be like gameplay stratagems, like command point reroll, and we currently have past morale, which they've said morale's changing, so we don't know what's
Yeah.
going on with that.
That ruined morale.
Yeah, they just need
If you would
to.
have got rid of the universal pass morale thing,
Yeah.
morale matters a whole lot more.
But you know, there'd be a few that are like reroll a dice, you know, whatever that are universal to like the fallback should probably be in tactical, but then there'd be like tactical stratagems, and you can use one of each per phase. So you can be like, I'm going to reroll a dice just because I had a roll,
Even one of each per turn.
and then you're like, okay, I did this one in my command phase on this turn, and then I get one tactic during the turn.
Yeah. And I mean, I definitely understand that. I just like when I envision, because GW's argument for like pulling back something that is mechanically sound but makes players feel bad is it's not fluffy. And like Troy said, it's not real fluffy to keep doing the same thing
Yeah.
over and over again. And command points are described as events that are performed in battle that greatly swing the battle.
But then there's things like you were talking about that Zach has jury rigging. Like you would definitely try to repair a tank more than once a game, fluff wise.
That's fair.
Yeah, no, and
So like
Maybe
as far
that's
as
a command phase one. I can see what he's saying.
like, yeah, there are things you would do multiple times per battle. You would definitely try to repair tanks.
I
yeah.
like the idea of upkeep on certain abilities. That's kind of cool. Like every turn, you would
So
have to.
that's more that's more bookkeeping.
That's a lot of
Once again,
bookkeeping.
That's true. But what if it was like a relic you took, but every turn you had to pay for it, like a relic that healed your tank every turn?
But also leads to things like what happened if you forgot to pay for it.
Yeah.
You
At
know,
least
your wound back. You got to think more like you pay the upkeep, then you get the ability.
yeah. So if you don't pay for it, it's gone.
Like you pay for it in the command phase. Start of your turn, this happens.
Well, I was
or
just
whatever
thinking
it's
like a tournament phase, in a tournament setting or a competitive setting.
It doesn't happen. That's it. You
Well, yeah,
didn't
well,
pay for it, it
I was
doesn't
just
happen.
thinking, like you were talking about, buying this character, making it a certain thing, and then like,
Resin models are a different animal. I'm used to plastic GW easy mode Demon Russes. This thing is large and warped and got mold lines and mold slips and doesn't fit, and I've had to use a heat gun and a grinder and carton shears, everything.
He's got like pinky-sized metal rods holding the wings on.
These are like bad boys.
They're actually like stakes out of a garden,
Yeah, when you said wire hanger wasn't strong enough, I was like, oh, this thing's a beast.
I mean, the thing weighs 5 pounds. Like, it's a beast of a model. It's gonna be cool when it's done, but it's been a project to put together. It's been the hardest model. Like, I work on cars for a living, so I feel like I'm pretty good at this kind of thing, and it's been depressingly hard.
but I think that's why when you see those people spend the money on, Night Peripheral, the expensive models for Forge World, and they paint them, they're so proud of them. It's because it is a.
Yeah, it was definitely more of a project than I expected. Like, I expected a lot of work. It is a lot of work. Parts coming in twisted, and you're not even. It's just been nothing lines up right. You have to cut and carve and sand and mold every piece. Not what I expected.
How about you, Troy?
I just finished the Sloppy Biopiper. He's done. I got his base. Looks pretty sweet. And I just put together 3 skull cannons, and they are drying right now from being primed. So, that goes.
I have literally never seen those models on a tabletop, so I'm excited.
Sloppity Biopiper or Skull?
The skull cannon.
Now those are the Space Marine, the new cannon, right?
No, they're demon cannons.
Yeah, they got the
Oh,
big skull.
They just shoot skulls.
okay.
It's
Well,
just a
the
battle
Space
cannon.
Marine has a Gatling,
Yeah.
the Gatling skull cannon. I can't remember what it's called.
These are just basically they're bloodletters in combat, and they're a battle cannon.
Nice.
Yeah, it looks like a big skull with a gun.
Yeah, you sent a picture of it yesterday.
It looks like
We were like, what the
That's a
hell
cool
is this?
model that I've literally never seen.
And it's
I
like
watched a
kind of
lot
like a
battle
weird
reports.
I
diesel
gotta look this
motorcycle.
up. Is it in our 40K chat?
No, I think it's in our
I
Overwatch
think I might
chat.
have said it.
Son of a
Yeah.
bitch.
I can say
Yeah,
it.
you were excluded.
I know.
I'm bad.
All right, Anvil, what are you working on?
Unfortunately, I'm not working on anything due to the numbness of my hands. So since I'm old and busted, having numb hands tends to put a damper on your painting and hobby.
That's fair.
So I'm
You have a big knight sitting there waiting to be finished.
waiting to be finished. My Night Peripheron needs to be finished.
Those are dope.
But I've got it. It's primed. It's got the base on all the armor. It just needs to be. I need to start doing all the trim and whatnot. But I just really can't. My fingers can't hold a brush for very long. But like, they're just numb. They just.
He has.
And as you move, it gets worse.
You've been working on the 3D printing stuff though for terrain and stuff.
I
like
have
that,
been
at least.
3D. I 3D printed Zach a base for his 5-pound plane,
It's gonna be epic.
and
It's gonna be a boulder on it.
I did get
But they're gonna
into.
change the rules. Then I'm gonna be sad.
I did get into Warlair. Bought some SD. I bought the SDL pack from that so that we have print some terrain, and bought into deadly Deadly Studios. It's I can't Verosco linked it to us, but it's a bunch of explosions and it's got like gun bursts for the end of your boulders,
That
and
sounds
they even
so
have
awesome.
them that have the shells coming out of the boulders for you. So I bought a resin printer. Our friends Kayvon and Verosco helped defray some of the cost of the resin printer, and I bought a wash station, and I haven't got it set up yet because it's kind of stinky. So I'm hoping to, once I get my neck fixed, enclose the back room for a hobby room and put the resin printers in there, kind of back of the house, away from everything, and then I can print the little things in a much finer detail. But the little bitty gun bursts, and there's like Gatling guns, and the best thing is it has inceptors instead of having the flight stands. They have like the smoke and fire that you just glue your guy to, and it holds him in the air.
That is so awesome.
It's Deadly. It's Deadly something Studios, and they had a little. It was like it's Europeans because it was in euros. It was like 23 euros or whatever to buy the STL pack.
That sounds amazing. I have been working on painting Necrons. I've got, I think, 5,000 points of Necrons sitting in here right now, and I am trying to do them. They're not pro painted, but they're like tabletop plus at least.
They look good.
I'm trying like to do full glow effects and all that sort of stuff, and I'm pretty much doing the whole army. I've got my destroyers done, and I've got one cryptech done, and I've got annihilation barge like 50%, and I realized I got to cut the barrel off the bottom of it to actually get good detail on it. So that's kind of the steps, but I did the whole, just go spray paint everything gunmetal, and it looks okay on the table for now, but they're slowly getting rusted, and I'm actually really happy with it. So I'm actually working on, I think I've got like 6 warriors on the table, but those are not getting as detailed as the destroyers and the tomb blades and all that stuff. So that's my hobby. I'm enjoying it. And the last thing I want to talk about is Zach and Troy's game. I'm just going to ask you guys a couple questions about it. That way you don't have to go through a play-by-play. First off, who won? Zach did win. Okay. Now, was this the game that was like a big point swing at the last turn?
I don't think it was a big point swing.
I won by 1 point.
By 1 point.
You were behind,
Yeah,
so
but you were way
did-
behind, and you acquired a lot of.
Yeah, he got like
I had
7
ground
points
control,
left,
and
They both chose ground control.
which was a mistake on my part. But there were 6 objectives, and I figured I could get at least 3 points out of it, which I did not. I got 0 points, and that was my biggest mistake.
Okay. So I guess I know the first turn was pretty one-sided as far as Astro Militarium got some hot rolls for Zach and some high damage hits, I guess.
yeah, I took out a Leviathan Dread and a Lord of Discordant on my first shooting phase, and the Discordant had only killed a squad of guardsmen.
Yeah, maybe. I think it was just 1, maybe 2. Not 2 whole squads, but he got some guards in the shit.
Yeah,
I warp timed him in there on the first turn.
You got him into the screen on the first turn, but you couldn't
Yeah.
get through it, and he got punished bad for that. And the Relic Battle Cannon tank commander shooting max shots against the vehicles is just disgustingly good. And he missed some of invulnerable saves, and Leviathan went down too.
So
It didn't do much damage either.
What took the 3d6? He got something that was 3d6 damage, and he rolled 15 or
were you playing a Shadow Sword?
rolled
No.
16.
No, it was a Demolisher that got a bunch of wounds through.
That was later in the game.
But it was
I think that was
definitely
a Demon Prince or something.
It just took 18
No, I
or
think it might
something
be more-
crazy.
it was 16.
It might have been more training because I deep striking him I warp timed him in the middle of your army. And he killed one of the Demolisher tanks, and the other one.
Well, he killed the other one too, but it was in the explosion when he died.
Yeah.
Yeah, Troy.
Yeah, because he took the fire from him and then.
Yeah.
Damn.
I just know Zach was. Troy's like, okay, 3 go through. Zach rolled the dice, was like, 16. Well, first
Good thing he's got feel no pain.
First he said 18, and Troy was like, you just rolled. Well, Zach rolled the dice, and he sit there and was like,
Yeah,
did the math, and then was like 18, and Troy was like, you just rolled trip sixes. He's like, 16. And Troy was like,
Oh,
still 16.
Damn. So
That's real bad right there.
So I guess Troy, if you went back and played the game outside of that one ground control thing, is there anything you would have changed? Is there any other mistakes you feel like you made?
There were 6 objectives which I didn't plan on, and we had the hammer and anvil? Is that the So Zach had a lot of deployments on to hide, not really hide in, but just range me out because my army was pretty close focused. I had the Leviathan, but he killed it on the first turn, and it was double storm cannon, so it didn't bring that much pain to like Lehman Russes or anything.
Yeah.
And I moved my plague bearers up and used my plague marines to hold the 3 objectives on my side of the board. I think it was a mistake. I should have kept the plague bearers back and the 2 characters associated with them. I had the Bowpiper and I had a Poxbringer, so they got +1 strength and could get through and they had the icon. So they were pretty survivable. I should have moved my plague marines up so then I could shoot because he had 90 guardsmen and I was just and plague bearers with no shots and 1 attack. Just they're not getting through 90.
Troy slogged through most of the guardsmen by the end of the game.
But I think it would have been better if I moved the plague marines forward and held the plague bearers back and then used them because he ended up deep striking hellhounds behind me and killing all the plague marines anyway.
Yeah. Okay.
The plague bearers would have survived more, and I could use the plague. And I took Big Game Hunter and ground control, and Reaper. I did get Reaper, but I didn't get 4 Big Game Hunters, and I didn't get any ground controls. So I only lost by 1 point.
You got 3. You got 3. You needed to kill the 1 tank at the end of the last turn, and you failed.
Yeah, well, and I would say leaving Plague Marines back, that's a pretty high impact unit to not do anything.
It's definitely an expensive unit to have.
Yeah.
Like next time I probably wouldn't even take them. That was just kind of the way. I was messing around with attachments. I wanted to play the Lord Discordant because the model's really cool.
Yeah, it's dope.
And he's a house.
You can't get Warp Time if you play Death Guard.
Yeah.
So I had to play Space Marines, so I played the Lord Discordant and I had Demon Prince to do Warp Time. So I could send my Mortarion up the board.
Makes sense. You can also spend the 1 CP to actually change Mortarion's spell loadout to give him warp time in the game. It's in the Death Guard Codex. It's any Space Marine strategy or Space Marine spell, so you can actually let Mortarion have his own warp time if you want to try that down the road. It's pretty cheesy.
Might try that.
What about you, Zach? Other than, I mean, you obviously came out ahead, but was there like a glaring mistake you think you made versus the army, or something you learned playing that particular matchup?
I've played against Mortarion enough to know that I can just deploy at the very back edge of my deployment zone if you don't let Mortarion get into your good stuff. If you don't let Mortarion get a charge on the first turn, he can't afford to warp time him up there. So it leaves him on his side of the board, so that means I get at least a shooting phase to shoot at Mortarion regardless of where he deploys. So that was really big. That was the first time I've managed to be able to deploy so far back in my own deployment that he basically moved Mortarion like 6 inches to put him in
behind
cover.
Yeah, there was a big right in the middle. It was a big bridge.
So instead of getting 24 inches of movement in a charge or whatever, he couldn't physically get into anything.
That makes sense.
Well, he could have.
I could have gotten to some guardsmen.
Yeah,
which just makes up on my front objective.
Nothing important.
Yeah.
But if he flies up there and makes a 8-inch charge to get into my guardsman, he doesn't get anything. He can't consolidate into anything else, and then he's at full wrath of the entire army.
Yeah, which is super bad.
Yeah. So I just managed to. I just out deployed him.
Yeah, mostly. Pre-measured.
He did. He measured out for my Leviathan and put everything behind it.
Yep. I stayed out of the range of his Leviathan and his Mortarion because the board or the map allowed me to do so.
That makes sense. No, that's valid.
And then ambush stratagem 2 Hellhounds and a set of guardsmen. And
Troy actually got up to a pretty good early lead points wise. Like Troy got battered pretty well on the battlefield.
I think at the end of the game I had like 3 plague bearers and a plague marine. I didn't have anything left. I'm surprised they didn't get.
But
I was just so far back in my own deployment. It took me a while to get out.
Like the Piper or one of those guys alive.
Maybe. But nothing important.
Yeah. But Troy got hammered pretty hard on the first turn, but was still up like 5-6 points.
Well, yeah.
Most every turn.
Because the Discordant was able to take that point.
And plague bearers can just sit on shit.
So, Troy got the bonus point.
I got the bonus for having 4 points.
He got,
I held more, and I think I killed more on the first turn. Because you killed the Discordant and the Dreadnought, but I killed like 3 units of guard. nothing important, but I got the actual
Yeah,
point
because
for killing more.
Leviathan killed 20 guardsmen.
Yeah, I think it got 2 scores.
Okay.
So Troy got out to a pretty good early lead points wise, even though he got hit pretty harsh strategically on the first turn, and then Zach had to slowly really, and Zach being Zach was talking about how bad he was getting hammered the whole time.
I will say this, because I didn't play for a while, and then I picked up orcs and I played against Zach, and like the amount of improvement on skill level in that time made me feel like we weren't even playing the same game. It was kind of crazy. So playing generally against Zach, always playing Astra Militarium is hard anyway, especially when you're experimenting with Plague Marines, which are just not good right now.
Yeah.
And we've thrown Mortarion and deleted enough Baneblades that he's finally figured out the strat for Mortarion, because we have deleted a lot of guardsmen and tanks, Lehman Russes with Mortarion.
Mortarion pretty much deletes a lot of everything.
He still did work. He only lived for a turn, but he still...
No, I mean, he still killed 2 Lehman Russes.
2 Lehman Russes.
Yeah,
he
so
took
he
some
got his
guardsmen
points almost anyway.
Yeah, the first
he got
turn...
a character with his explosion. Like, he did work.
The first turn, Mortarion literally moved up behind the bridge and sat there. So he took a turn off, and he still killed...
Yeah, he's a house.
400 or 500 points for the models.
He got
a couple Lehman
I
Russes,
was able to,
some
with the
guardsmen.
warp time jump.
He shouldn't have gotten as many Lehman Russes as he did, but I have a squadron of Demolishers and a squadron of Hellhounds. That way I can ambush stratagem one or the other depending on the matchup.
Yeah.
But you have to deploy them close together.
So you just couldn't get them far enough
I
apart.
couldn't spread them out far enough to where he couldn't murder face one. And like he only attacked one and some guardsmen, killed it, but the other one didn't get far enough away to where it didn't die to the explosion.
Yeah,
When
well,
I
then
killed
he
more
can
things.
always consolidate because his base is massive. If he deletes the one, he's just going to consolidate. Well, right on. Well, this episode, like I said, it's our first one, and, we're still getting the hang of getting everything dialed in. There's some tangents on there, but overall, I hope you guys enjoyed the content. I would like to try to do this bi-weekly. We'll see what the scheduling is. Zach's got a kid on the way. Anvil doesn't have a neck. So we'll see what happens in the coming weeks, but the idea is to try to get a show coming out on the regular, even if not everybody can be here, but hopefully we can. If you liked it, please comment on it, say something, let us know what you thought. If you think that the things we predict for 9th edition are hot garbage, let me know. If you also think cultists have been over nerfed, let me know.
No more cultists.
No one thinks that.
But yeah, we'll see you guys next time, and thanks for listening.